It's been some time since I last touched the cartridge, and since then I've had some questions going through my mind. For one, what was that hand when I fought Manila? And will Mothra ever come back? Guess there's only one way to find out. Onto the second world. Already I can see that one of my questions have been answered. Mothra isn't here, and I assume she's not going to come back. Anyways, Galacius is a cyan board, and there's 5 distinct level types, which are a mountain, another mountain but what looks like water around it, a castle, probably made of ice, a wall of ice of some sort, and finally some sort of structure. No idea what it's meant to be, but I assume it's the exit. The closest level type to me is the mountain with no water, so I'll go there first. Already I can see that the mountain level has a lot going on. That spaceship from Arbitrium has come back, along with a couple other things all around the place, like this oddly familiar looking robot. Moving on through the level, some winged enemies appear. The lighter blue ones move towards you and claw at you, while the darker blue one is much more irritating to deal with. The damn thing jumps back quickly whenever it attacks you. Had to use a heat beam just to take it out. Eventually, all the enemies ran away, leaving this big creature behind. It's just standing there. Never mind, I guess. It's dead now. At the end of the level, I found this ice dragon who I thought was going to be a boss. That is, until he started to speak. So it turns out that at least some of the monsters can talk. The ice dragon also joined me, and his name is Snowflake. I have no clue if this Snowflake character ever appeared in a Godzilla game or movie, but whatever. I'll give him a try in the next level. The other mountain level has me in a very different place. I'm on a small island in a huge lake. The music here has a calm and almost mystical feeling to it. If you're wondering, Snowflake plays somewhat similar to the other two monsters, though he's somewhat slower and has a sort of ice/snowflake attack that replaces the heat beam. There's only one way to go, and that's into the water. In the lake, there's these little worm enemies that swim by and often appear in small groups. They don't do any damage, but they knock you back ever so slightly if they touch you. Later on, some bigger fish appear, and they move quite a bit faster than the worms. Turns out that Snowflake's ice attack can freeze enemies. This, along with the fact that Snowflake is stronger than the other two monsters, can be pretty useful to deal with multiple enemies at once. Now there's another island. Gonna go onto land to see what I can find. At the end of the level, there's a mini-boss that burrows through the ground and spits out a bunch of rocks at you. At times it got pretty annoying since there's only a short time window between the attack and it going underground again. It's almost like fighting the mole borer from Zook Hero 2, except way more obnoxious. The castle level is pretty much as expected, though it's darker than what the icon on the board looked like. The enemies here are weird, triangular creatures that charge at me with a spike on their head. They're pretty slow and weak though, so they're not too bad. Eventually, I came across these stairs. I guess there must be multiple floors to this level. And indeed, there are. The second floor has the same slow enemy, but it's joined by a new floating triangle that shoots stuff at me. They are just as weak, but they move quite a bit faster. More stairs and more triangles. Moving on to the next floor. This looks like a rest floor. There's no enemies, and whoever was here was nice enough to leave me some health capsules. They only give about 1 bar of health each, but at least it's something. The enemies themselves don't drop any health. As for the statues in the painting, I have no idea. I'm gonna assume that the one on the left is some sort of holy figure, and the one on the right is some sort of queen or king figure. And as for the painting, I suppose it represents some sort of legend. This guy looks friendly, so I guess I'll say hi. Guess he's not up for a conversation. There's not much to say about the third floor anymore, so let's move on. The fourth floor is much more of a challenge, as the enemies from the previous floors have been replaced with upgraded versions that are far more powerful. The floating ones are very agile and try to stab you with their arms, while the pyramid thing has a cannon that shoots projectiles at you. These upgraded forms may be more of a challenge, but they occasionally drop the same blue health capsules when you kill them, so the difficulty is evened out. At the end of the fourth floor is an open door. This must be the exit. Instead, it took me outside. This must be the very top of the tower. Well then, this must be the king. He doesn't look very happy. It's another boss. The Ice King is huge, and I'd better be wary of that huge sword he's wielding. Even with Anguilus's beam, he barely reacts, so I have no way of knowing if he's actually been damaged. His attacks are also very powerful and often difficult to predict. Just one swing of the sword took out a good chunk of Anguilus's health. At times, he'll sit back down and send off a barrage of the stage's enemies at me. Anguilus is getting low on health, so I'd better get lucky and get some health capsules from these guys. The battle was intense as hell, but eventually I was able to defeat him. Those health capsules some of the enemies spawned really were my saving grace here. When he's defeated, the Ice King spoke once again. And just like that, he shattered, leaving the sword behind. But after this, I have one question. What are these so-called eyes in the fog? I've only seen fog in one instance so far, and that was way back in the graveyard level. Are there more of these grave creatures out there? Or something entirely new? Right now, I'm drawing a blank, so I guess I'll fight the bosses before exploring the last two levels. The first boss is Lavaan. Wow. This is supposed to be an ice world and I'm fighting a rainbow dinosaur that wouldn't look out of place in a drug trip. Lavaan has a generic punching attack and a yo-yo attack that he uses much more often. It doesn't do much damage, but it stuns me for some time, which gets very annoying. I also noticed that for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to be regenerating his energy. Now he's lost his color and the letters on his back seem to be recharging his energy. He's invincible in this state, so I'm just gonna wait it out. After bringing his health to 0, he performs this last resort attack that takes out a ton of health. It's a good thing he died shortly after, otherwise I would have already lost Snowflake. Snowflake's out of commission for the time being, and I feel like Godzilla hasn't seen very much action, so I'm gonna fight the next boss with him. The next boss is Vertus B, who, for the sake of preventing a tongue twister, I'll be calling Verti. Everything's bright red in the Versus screen, which is giving me a headache, so I hope the battle isn't the same. Already, I've noticed that Verti's level is way higher than mine, so I'm starting to think this was a bad idea. And a bad idea it was. His primary attack is to extend his torso at me, which is very irritating to deal with. Not only does it deal a fair amount of damage, but he also uses it constantly and can easily pin me at the left side of the arena. Not to mention the fact that he really only attacks when it's the worst time possible for me. It's almost like he can predict what I'm about to do and when I'm about to do it. He went back towards the right, thank God, but now his head's turning into something new. Now he's turned his head into a huge monster, which stands there and claws at me. This would be easy to avoid if it weren't for the fact that I only have a small amount of space to move around. Godzilla's health is getting way too low, too. Ah, damn it. Now I've lost Godzilla. Great. Now I have to beat this game without its titular character. What were these developers thinking? Actually, that's not too far-fetched for a licensed game, but even still. Alright, I'm gonna have to think of a way to beat this guy, since neither Anguilus or Snowflake are fit to fight him right now. Maybe Snowflake now that I think about it, since he's a higher level, but I'll have to heal him first. Alright, after a bit of grinding, I've got Snowflake healed enough, so it's time to kick this guy's ass. Even though Snowflake is a little slower, Snowflake is stronger and has a higher defense than Godzilla, so maybe I'll stand a bit of a chance with this guy. It also turns out that Snowflake has another advantage. Using the ice attack actually slows Vertuous' speed down significantly. Utilizing this trick, the fight became much easier, and I was able to beat him quickly. It's actually a little odd at how Verti is so easily overwhelmed with Snowflake while I was the one being overwhelmed by him a few minutes ago, but whatever, I'll take it. Now, if only I healed Snowflake first and... forget it. At least I have 2 monsters left, so I shouldn't be in too much danger, and I'm pretty close to the end anyway. Time to explore the last 2 level types. The ice wall has me in a field of rocks, with what looks like icy mountains in the background. It's pretty dark here, and while it isn't too difficult to see, it makes it somewhat unsettling. The music doesn't help either, it's mostly wind, with a faint, creepy melody. Still nothing but snow and rocks. This level's been going on for quite some time. I believe it's been about 3 minutes since I started. And more snow keeps covering the screen too. Also, I'm not sure if it's caused by the game or not, but I swear that I've been getting chills since I started this level. It's like I'm actually stuck out in the cold. Geez, I never would have expected to see an enemy here, let alone a mini-boss. They're no pushover either, as it immediately attacks me with a powerful ice beam. It frequently runs around and claws at me too. It's a good thing I'm not frozen by the ice beam, otherwise this would have been a much harder fight. When I was back on the board, I noticed that the icon at the very top had changed. I'm not sure what it's supposed to represent now, but my best guess is that it's a portal. Either way, it's time to enter the last level of Galacius. The final level is very different to what I expected. It's not dark or cold like the ice wall level, but the lack of any music and the dreary appearance does not give me a very good feeling about this place. At least Anguillus is by my side. Moving through the level, I found some broken enemies from the ice castle. They don't move or do anything at all, and attacking them once breaks them instantly. If this was an ice castle like the ones earlier in the world, what destroyed it? The moment this fog started to cover the screen, Anguillus ran off. Now I'll be honest here. I did say I had a bad feeling coming into this level, but I really mean it at this point. I feel like I'm gonna see something that I shouldn't, and I should just turn off the game. But then again, I won't find out what may lie beyond. No turning back now. I'm going in. The fog eventually covered up the whole screen, including the UI on top. And wait, what the hell is that? Dear God. It all feels like a blur. This shadowy thing constantly attacks me and its copies follow. Even when I think I've lost it, the copies still keep me on my toes. At times, I can barely differentiate them from the real thing. It's getting to be very, very stressful. I saw a thinner patch of fog for a second, and going in the direction of that patch, I saw something new. A portal. This has gotta be the exit. After I entered the portal, something unexpected happened, which I'll display on screen here and now. Okay, I knew this game is capable of altering itself for every person, but how the hell does it know my name? If it knows that, then what else could it know about me? This game's suddenly thrown a lot more at me, and I feel like I have a lot more questions than answers at this point. For instance, what became of Anguillus? What was that shadow thing, and how does it know who I am? And is it what the Ice King was talking about when he mentioned eyes in the fog? And oh, never mind. I probably won't get all the answers at once. Regardless, I need to take another break from this game.